Happy International Women's Day. If you haven't said it to the person next to you or behind you, just do it now, just so you get that experience of saying it. I, for one, am just really pleased that I made it upstairs in these purple shoes, which are my International Women's Day shoes. I can only wear them on International Women's Day. They're the most painful, uncomfortable, genuinely tragic shoes I've ever had. And I wear them too because purple is the colour of International Women's Day. And also, of course, to remind myself often, as I do when I'm struggling around the streets of Melbourne in these shoes, that not everybody has the benefit of buying beautiful purple shoes, even if they were made by a man who has no idea what he's doing, to actually, and to enjoy the experiences that we have and the liberties that we have in this country particularly. I actually thought that I was literally the light entertainment between the big bookends, which is Jan, who is amazing and a brilliant CEO of one of our best foundations in Australia, but with an incredibly long history and brilliant track record in working with women and people in all different forms and places around Australia. And then, of course, the incredible stellar panel that are sitting in front of us here, who you're about to meet, who are the brilliant entrepreneurs that SSE has the privilege to work with, and the women of that group who are amazing. And Alistair Wilson, who is a male, but he is here from the UK, and so we made an exception. And Ali is one of the most outstanding global entrepreneurs that we have the privilege to work with. So really, I'm literally, you won't even know I was here. To be called a keynote speaker is deeply disturbing on multiple levels to me, not least of which my lack of, spending hours on my speech. I wanted to just say a couple of quick things though, because I was asked to, and as the chair of SSE, the board in Australia, and as now the CEO of the Foundation for Young Australians, I have a deep commitment in entrepreneurs, but also in the next generation. And we do clearly stand here today on the land of our Indigenous people. We stand on the shoulders of our sisters who have walked and marched, chained themselves to lampposts, wept in frustration and anger. I don't know if we should ever forget that. Just to get us a vote, to get us equal pay-ish. And really, it's beholden on us then to reflect on our progress and what we will do next. So how are we travelling? Well, just a little quick update. We have a couple of problems. The problems are literally, and this is pure evidence data, that women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world. There are 190 heads of state, 9 of them are women. Of all the people in Parliament in the world, 13% are women. In all the parliaments in all the world, 13% are women. In the corporate sector, women at the top take out 15 to 16% globally. The numbers have not moved since 2002 and are going in the wrong direction. Even in the non-profit world, which many of us know here, a world we sometimes think is being led by women, there are only 20% of women leaders in the non-profit world in the world. So we have some ways to go, and it's wonderful that a partner in today is actually the Women's Donor Network, and you're going to hear from Julia and Eve and Jill are in the room, who are drivers of that with Carol Schwartz, and I think it's incredibly important, the work that they will do in the future. There are 3 things I wanted to leave with you around what I think we should do next. I thought of kind of big, bold statements, and then I thought, let's just try and keep it real for a bit and see where we get to. Firstly, I think we should keep our expectations high, very high, about women and young women. And we should be prepared to be inspired. I'm going to tell a story against myself now, which is not to go out of this room, Chatham House rules. We had recently a great program that we run at FIA called WOW, Worlds at Work, where we introduce young people to all the kinds of worlds of work that they could have. And we had a group from Broadmeadows in, and I sat with this group of 30 young people, and I was brought in to talk about my less than exemplary educational experience and achievements, which are minimal, and thought I was kind of getting down and really into it with these young people from Broadmeadows, that sit a disadvantaged area of Melbourne. And these two girls sat in the back of the program, kind of were giggling and laughing and talking. They're very shy, and when we tried to do the group discussions, they wouldn't speak. And then at the end, I went and had a chat to these couple of young women, and they were from all different parts of the world, as Broadmeadows is, as you know now today. It's deeply multicultural. And as I started to talk to them about how you're going at school, it must be hard, and English isn't your first language, and all my prejudices were on show in the most diabolical way. And they said to me, no, we speak 4 languages, of which English is our third. We actually, we're tracking to become doctors, nurses and lawyers. We're very clear about where we're going, and we're studying really hard and doing really, really well. So thanks for your talk about how hard it is, and and you'll just have to stick to your studies. We're completely on, and we understand what we're doing here and where we're going and what we've got to do. And I felt incredibly humbled and a little stupid, of course, but also inspired. Incredibly inspired that these young women from Afghanistan, from Somali, and a couple of other countries who were in this group that were just from Broadmeadows High School had such clarity about what they were doing here and where they were going. And I thought that was phenomenal and powerfully inspiring. And I want us to keep our expectations high and be prepared to be inspired every day by stories like that, and to look for those stories, because it's very easy not to actually see those stories and to only see what the difficulties are that many, many groups are having. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about quickly was about our investment. Our investment financially, morally and ethically in unblocking obstacles. And one of the things that we heard yesterday, I heard from Ali, was a phenomenal story about Anne Cotton, who 10 years ago was a student at SSE in the UK. And this year has been nominated as Bill Clinton's, one of his leaders in the Bill Clinton Initiative. So 10 years ago, Anne from the UK started a program in Zimbabwe with young women all about education, and started a program called CAMFED. And she went there and she said, I really need to try and find out what's going on. And she found out that the things that she thought were obstacles were not obstacles. She thought that poverty was the obstacle, or that people for cultural reasons didn't want to send their girls to school. And then she discovered it was none of those things. It was that boys would earn more money if they got educated to bring back to the family. And so she set about, this young woman from the UK, to actually educate women in Zimbabwe. And now 10, 11 years later, there are successful programs in 2,925 communities called CAMFED, educating young women to go to schools. In Zimbabwe, Ghana, Zambia, Mali, and I keep thinking, who was Anne to do that? Who was Anne to do that? Who was she? Who was Anne from Cambridge to go there and do that? And I was reminding myself, well, who was Anne not to? Who was Anne not to do that? Who are any of us not to actually go and try to get to the source of where the problems are and unblock and take the obstacles away for people to thrive and to become the people that they aspire to be? Who are we not to? And that leads me to my third point. There are many examples in this room of what I call sheer unadulterated chutzpah, and I want us to hold on to that. That idea that actually you act first and seek permission later is very, very, very real and very important, particularly in entrepreneurs who do things differently, who try to step out of the mainstream and think differently about something. And there are Pamela Hartigan's here this week, who many of you know, and she wrote a great book called The Power of Unreasonable People, which is a phenomenal book. And her story talks always about people who acted first and sought permission later from the authorities, from people who thought they should do it differently or better. And I think that if there's anything that we can learn, it's about the power of unreasonable people and that ability to act first, and the chutzpah it takes. And we're so fortunate that in Melbourne and in Australia, in this room, we have got many, many, many women, and I can see them. Rebecca Scott sitting here, and as I said, Eve before, and Christine Edwards at the Maya Foundation, in many, many institutions in different forms, whether it's a foundation or an organisation that's a government organisation or a community, people actually just need to take the opportunity to create change. And there's a chutzpah in that I would hate us ever, ever, ever to lose. And I think many times we sit around as women agonising deeply about whether we should or shouldn't act. Whether we should or shouldn't act. And sometimes you just have to act. And that's when change will take place. So those three things: keep our expectations very high, prepared to be inspired and go looking for those, and keep expectations of the young women that we work with, live with, come in contact with, run programs with. Keep the expectation incredibly high about what it is that we expect, and we will support them to be. Invest financially, morally and ethically in unblocking obstacles and creating systemic change. And finally, hang on to and drive and be a person of chutzpah. Just act. I think we fear way too much about that capacity to act, and I've learnt more than anything from people like Alistair here about that, and other people in the room. So may I thank you, and thank you to all our friends in the room. This is a fantastic community in Melbourne. I feel so privileged to be here with phenomenal women in this city, and seeing more young women come through, like through SSE and the Young Social Pioneers program we run at FIA. We are gifted with amazing change agents, and I thank you, and we honour you for your work today. That's what this is about, 100 years of women actually taking opportunities and really driving change, and I thank you for that, and honour each of you for your role in that. Thank you.